I know sometimes when we are solving equations, we get what's called an extraneous solution, which is an answer we can find algebraically, but it doesn't actually make the original problem true. So anytime for these types of problems, when we have a variable on the outside of our absolute value, when we are done, we have to check our answers to make sure they make true statements in our original problem. So if we get a false statement, that means that we have that extraneous solution, and we would have to exclude that from our final answer. Okay. Now, same rules still apply. I have to get the absolute value group by itself first. So if it's not, that's the first thing that we would do. And then once it is, we are setting up two equations. So again, whatever's inside of our absolute value can't change. So this is still going to be x plus 5 no matter what. And then this will be 2x minus 10. And then on the second equation, we are changing both signs of whatever's on this side. So we'll have a negative 2x, and then the 10 becomes positive. Okay. And now we're just solving each part. So I'm going to choose to subtract the 2x over, and then at the same time I'm also going to minus the 5. So if you need to do that in 2 steps, that's fine. So this will give me negative x equals negative 15, and then I'm dividing both sides by negative 1. So x will equal positive 15. And then on my next one, again, I'm solving it like normal. So I'm going to add the 2x, and at the same time I'm going to subtract the 5. So again, if you need to do that in 2 steps, then you should be doing that in 2 steps. So this will be 3x equals 5. And then divide both sides by 3. So it's going to be really common to start getting fractions for your answers. So you need to leave them as fractions instead of changing them to decimals because we don't want to round. Okay. Now once we have both of our answers, we have to check that they work in the original problem. So to do that, we're just going to substitute in our answer into all of the x's and see if we get a true or a false statement. So this will be 15 plus 5 equals 2 times 15 minus 10. So this will give me 20 in the absolute value. That is 30 minus 10. So the absolute value of 20 equals 20. So that is a true statement, which means that this is one of my answers, so I'm going to circle it. And now we need to check our second answer. So again, back to the original, not the one that we changed. So this will be 5/3 plus 5 equals 2 times 5/3 minus 10. So we're going to have to remember some of our fraction rules for adding and subtracting. So for adding and subtracting, we need a common denominator. So I have to assume that a number is over 1 if it doesn't have a fraction. Between 3 and 1, my common denominator is 3. So I'm taking the top and bottom times 3 for this. So this is really 5/3 plus 15/3. And then here, so multiplying straight across for multiplication, so this will give me 10 over 3. And then again, I'm assuming that that 10 is over 1, so when I subtract it, I actually want it to have a common denominator with the 3, so I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by 3. So this will be a 30 over 3. And then I'm just continuing to simplify, so this will be the absolute value of 20 over 3. And then 10 minus 30 is negative 20 over 3. So absolute value cannot be equal to a negative number, so this is a false statement, which means this is an extraneous solution, so I need to cross it off. Okay. Now in your work, you need to show that you found that, and then through your check, we're going to exclude that as part of our final answer since it does create a false statement. Okay. Now for the fractions, if you guys want to use your calculators, that's fine. So like on our check problem, instead of doing this part by hand, I can just type in 5 divided by 3 plus 5, and then I'm using my math button here, and that will change it back into a fraction, so I'm pressing enter, enter. Okay. And then on this side, I can also type this whole line in, so 2 parentheses, 5 divided by 3 parentheses, and then minus 10, enter. And then I'm just using my math key to change that back into a fraction. Okay, so you are welcome to use your calculators to help you deal with those fractions. Okay. All right, so what I would like you guys to do now is pause the video, go ahead and practice these 4 problems, and then I will work through them. Okay, so 10, absolute value is already isolated, so we can go right into our 2 separate problems. And then remember, whatever's in the absolute value, we are keeping exactly the same and then changing the signs on everything on the outside of it. And now we're just solving each part. So I'm going to choose to subtract the 4x. And then at the same time, I'm going to minus the 10. So that will give me negative 3x equals negative 18. Divide both sides by negative 3. So x is a positive 6. Second one, adding 4x and subtracting 10 at the same time. So again, if you guys need to do that in 2 steps, completely fine. So this will be 5x equals negative 2. Divide both sides by 5. So that leaves me with x equals negative 2/5. Okay. Now, because we have that x on the outside, we have to check to make sure both answers work. And we always check both of them to the original problem. Okay, so we have to go back to this step. So I will have 6 plus 10, and then 4 times 6 minus 8. So we're just checking to see if that's a true or a false statement. So this will give me the absolute value of 16. This is 24. 24 minus 8 is positive 16. So that is a true statement. So x equals 6 is an answer. And then now I need to check my second answer back to that original problem again. So we're just substituting that fraction in for all of the x's. So negative 2/5 plus 10 equals 4 times negative 2/5 minus 8. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to use my calculator to kind of speed the process up. So negative 2 divided by 5 plus 10, changing it back into a fraction. So 48/5. And then same thing on that next one. So 4 times negative 2 divided by 5 minus 8. And then changing it back to that fraction. Now, if you notice on this one, that decimal was a nice decimal. So if you are just checking your work, it's okay to use the decimals if you want to compare it that way. But I'm always going to be using the fractions. Okay. Now, absolute value can never be equal to a negative number because this represents a distance. So this is a false statement, which means that that is an extraneous solution, so I have to cross it off. All right, next problem. My absolute value group is not alone this time, so my first step is going to be to get it by itself. So I'm going to have to add 2x to both sides. So 3 absolute value of 2x plus 2 equals 3x plus 3. And now I'm going to have to divide everything by 3. So I'm working with the absolute value of 2x plus 2 equals x plus 1. So now I'm ready to set up my 2 equations. So 2x plus 2 equals x plus 1. 2x plus 2 equals negative x minus 1. And now we're solving. So I'm going to subtract the x, and at the same time I'm going to subtract the 2. So this will give me x equals negative 1 for that first answer. Here I need to add x this time, and I'm going to subtract the 2 over. So this is 3x equals negative 3. And I'm going to divide both sides by 3. So x equals negative 1. Okay, so because we ended up with the same answer twice, which does not happen very often, we have to just check the one answer. Okay. And we are either going back to the very original equation, or we would go back to the step that we simplified here. So either one is okay. So I'm going to use this one. So this will be 2 times negative 1 plus 2. equals -1 plus 1. So that's really just -2. So -2 plus 2 is 0. -1 plus 1 is also 0. So that is a true statement. So I have a correct answer. And we only need to write it once since we ended up with the same thing. All right, next problem. Our absolute value group is alone, so we can go right into setting up our two equations. So 6x plus 25 equals -3x minus 2. 6x plus 25 equals a positive 3x plus 2. So I'm going to start by adding 3x and subtracting the 25. So this will be 9x equals -27, so I need to divide. So that means our x is -3. Okay. This time I'm subtracting the 3x and subtracting the 25. So this will give me 3x equals -23. So dividing by 3, x equals -23 thirds. And we need to check both of our answers. All right, so again, going back to this original problem. So this will be 6 times -3 plus 25 equals -3 times -3 minus 2. So this is really -18. So -18 plus 25 is going to be 7 in the absolute value. That's 9, so 9 minus 2 is positive 7. So that is a true statement. So that is a correct answer. And checking my second one. So this will be 6 times -23 thirds plus 25 equals -3 times -23 thirds minus 2. All right, so let's see, if we take 6 times -23 thirds, that is going to give us -46 plus 25. So that will be a -21 in our absolute value. And then here, those 3's cancel out, and a negative times a negative is a positive. So this will be 23 minus 2, which is 21. So the absolute value of -21 is positive 21. So this is also a true statement. So that means that this is a solution. So this time both solutions work, so we need to make sure that we are circling both. All right, last example for this section. My absolute value is alone, so I don't need to worry about isolating it. So I can go right into setting up my two equations. So second one will be x minus 8 equals -7 plus 2x. All right, so here I'm going to add 2x to both sides, and at the same time I need to add the 8. So this will be 3x equals 15. So if we divide, that means x is 5 for one answer. All right, here I'm going to subtract my 2x this time, and then add 8. So that will be -x equals 1, and then I have to divide by -1, so that means x is -1. And now I need to check my answers. So we will have 5 minus 8 equals 7 minus 2 times 5. So that's really a 10. So this is -3, and then 7 minus 10 is -3. So the absolute value of -3 is not equal to -3. So 5 is an extraneous solution. So I need to cross that off. And then I have to check my second one. All right, so we will have -1 minus 8 equals 7 minus 2 times -1. So this is really a positive 2. So this will be absolute value of negative 9. And then, so again, this became a positive 2, so 7 plus 2 is 9. So that is a true statement. So that means negative 1 is my only answer. Now, if you do come across a situation where both of these don't work out, then we would put no solution for our final answer. And that is going to conclude this section.